How I built a modular wargaming board, part 2. Now I'm calling this the valley tiles, and this is the tiles that you're seeing in front of you. That's two separate tiles which are designed to be a valley. Whether it is actually a valley or not, I don't know, but it's a lower section of the boards that's going down to kind of the kind of MDF board level. So this is what it looks like, and this is how I made it. So to begin with, if you watch the first part of the video, I cut out the whole river section as one, and what I've done with this is I've just taken sections of it and I've cut it up into kind of just to form the outside kind of skeleton, if you like, of the valley bit. So when you see this in a minute, you will see that there are going to be gaps in it. You can see that me here measuring up things to make sure it is going to be long enough, and this is the satisfying. Look at that. But this is what I came up with. So we had one long section like that, and then essentially I just took the bits and pieces that were left over from cutting the board up, and came up with a design. I mean, you can do your own thing. And then to get it stuck down, I used instant nails, which I used in the first part of the video. It's just super simple. Splodge them on, press it down, put a bit of weight on it, and it sticks, and it's then stuck there forever. So looking at this now, you can see that there are kind of gaps and bits and pieces that aren't quite right with it, but that's okay because we'll be sorting that out in a minute. But I wanted this to be a bit more valley-like. I wanted it to be less like sheer cliff edges. So to start with, I've just cut some angles into the rock, and then to really kind of smooth it out, I'm using some ready mixed plaster. You can use something like polyfiller here, and there's nothing really fancy about what I'm doing here. It's just a case of getting your hands dirty, getting a scoop of plaster, maybe wetting your hands a little bit, and then just smoothing it all out. And what's great about this is that we're going to cover it in flock and stuff anyway, so it doesn't really matter what it looks like when you do this. It's all about getting the angles of it, and so you can see there's some cracks in it and stuff, but it doesn't matter. So now moving on to making it a little bit prettier. So I've got some watered down PVA glue here, and to start with, I'm going to put down what I'm kind of calling paths. So there's going to be some more kind of soily areas, and that's what I did to start with. So just putting this watered down PVA glue wherever I wanted the paths to be. Now, to flock these paths, what I've done is I've used coffee grounds. So when I make some coffee, I tip that out onto a plate, then I chuck it in the microwave for a few minutes, and that gets all of the moisture out of it, so they're nice and dry. Leave it to cool down, and then you've got what basically looks like soil. Or alternatively, you can go into the garden and you can dig up some soil, but yeah, it's nice to kind of reuse stuff rather than it just being kind of put in the bin. So I'm just sprinkling this down with my kind of favourite medicine spoon here, just to create paths that come down into the valley. And that's for kind of more gameplay purposes than how it looks. Well, a little column A, little column B, I guess. Next up, we have a mixture of sand and PVA glue and paint. Now this is to act like muddy cliff banks, so this is going to be put on all along the edges. Any kind of vaguely vertical or slanted edges are going to be stippled with this stuff, and stippling means that the sand kind of stays on, whereas if you brush it on, then it tends to kind of drag the sand along with it. So it's better to kind of just push it into the sides so that it you have the kind of the nice texture all the way along. And it was at this stage I'm kind of wondering what I wanted the middle of the board to look like, whether it should have puddles, whether it should be darker because there's more kind of rich plant vegetation there, or whether it should be lighter because there's not as much water, or I don't know. But having done all the PVA mix on the side, I added some PVA glue just in the little gaps that were kind of missed, and then they were just filled in with the soil, which I then added to some of the cliff edges just to give them a little bit more detail, shall we say. Next up, I added PVA all the way around the top edge, and I sprinkled across a mixture of 3 different flocks, all from Javis Scenics, and nothing more complicated than kind of sprinkling it all over. I tried to kind aim the bag that I'm sprinkling from away from the cliff edge. So we don't really want grass on that cliff edge, so just being careful with it. And then to finish off the flocking, I've got this permanent spray adhesive. This is after it's all dried. And then I've just used a much lighter summery flock to kind of finish up the edges. And you'll see from the center there, which I forgot to press record on, I used a combination of a darker flock, some static grass, and some battlefield scatter mix as well. And as you know from seeing this at the start, this is what it ended up looking like. You've got a path going down, you have some static grass there, you have some rocks and stuff, and then the top of it is much lighter, which means that it can blend with the rest of the board. Please like, comment, and subscribe.